Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 269 for November 8th, 2022, Election Day. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On today's show, the matchups are set for the CFL Conference Finals this weekend, and yet another NFL head coach has been fired. In this week's history lesson, we tell the story of the very first football movie. But I'm not here by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Hold on a minute. We're going to talk about a football movie, and I wasn't consulted on this matter. As a person with a movie YouTube channel, I was not consulted?
Yeah, your movie channel's doing pretty good. You've got, 1,000 views on your current Weird Al movie.
Weird Al, I know, yeah. The video's only been up for like 3 days since the Friday night when I was able to put it out. Yeah, who would have thought that the Weird Al movie would be what's getting me traction lately?
Hey, Weird Al sells, man.
And I'm looking forward to the Black Panther this weekend, Wakanda Forever. That should be another, hopefully, big one, even though I feel weird. I feel like my Marvel ones don't really reach as many people. But hey, whatever.
You must be talking to a lot of DC fans out there.
Hey, I do like me some DC, but this is not a comic book show. This is a football show where we're here to talk about football and stuff. And boy, what a crazy few hours it's been, like 24 hours it's been.
We got a lot of stuff to go over today. Normally I struggle to come up with stuff for us to talk about, but boy, this week it was pretty easy.
It's just always, like now we're into CFL playoff season. Yep. We're into the middle of the NFL season. We just had the trade deadline, but now it's kind of that spot where it's, are coaches going to get fired? What are teams looking like? Are they benching players? Are they looking like they're tanking? It's all over the map. And then college football heating up. We got college football rankings that came out last week, and upsets and things shaking the college football landscape. This is the heart of the football season, and it's awesome.
This is the time of year when the good teams and the bad teams start to get separated from one another, and so it's a little easier to make our NFL picks from time to time.
Well, you say that, but because
now you kind of know who the good teams are, even though it was a crazy weekend last weekend.
2 weeks, because we're about to get to the scores, and there's some scores that who saw this coming.
Yeah, really. You say that just about every game here.
Well, let's get to it.
All right, we come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football, all this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of this show, as well as other selected videos. So let's begin today's show with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
That's right. What a entertaining week of football it was in the National Football League. As we look at Week 9, we start with the Thursday night game, which saw the Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Houston Texans 29-17. I watched the first half of this game. Yeah, I think you did too.
I think I went to it at halftime.
And I will say I was very skeptical and not very in favor of the battle red helmets of the Houston Texans. But I have to say, watching the game, seeing it on a screen, looked pretty good. I actually I was quite the fan of the new red helmets.
Yeah, you know me, I hate change, and usually any new variation on a uniform that I've come to know is not good in my mind. But I didn't think they looked bad at all.
It's like one of the first big changes to the Houston Texans uniform. I mean, other than they introduced that red jersey,
right?
But now they have a red helmet to go along with it, so it's only the second helmet in Texans history. I mean, they've only been around for 20 years, so I thought it looked good, and they looked great during the first half of this game. Mm-hmm. They really stayed step in step with the Eagles, and I mean, eventually the Eagles just pulled away, but. I mean, still a Texans team they're 1-6-1, and they hung with them, and it was great to see. It was really cool. They went down on that first drive and scored, so it was like, all right, we might actually have a ball game. But clearly, the second half was a different tale.
Yeah, I did like the red helmets, and I like the fact that they were a shiny helmet as opposed to a matted helmet, a dull color. They were really nice. They showed up really well on TV, and I think I told you this. If you squinted your eyes for just a moment, I thought it was the New Jersey Generals with the red helmet and the red jerseys working their way down the field from the old USFL. But, I thought the red helmets actually worked, so I liked them.
Yeah, I very, very much in favor of those. All right, moving on now. The Los Angeles Chargers defeated the Atlanta Falcons 20-17. I think the Chargers had to come back for this one. I didn't really get to see a whole lot from this game.
I didn't either.
But good for the Chargers. I know I didn't pick them this week. You did. Then the Miami Dolphins narrowly defeated the Chicago Bears 35-32. This was a heck of a game between a couple of good young quarterbacks. Tua put up some points, but Justin Fields came alive. He had like 150 or 160 yards rushing, something crazy. He had that 60-yard touchdown run, which was like the longest play of the day. So Justin Fields starting to kind of finally come alive a little bit and look like a scary threat, especially before they played Detroit this weekend.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that team won't show up against Detroit.
But, I mean, good for Tua, looking great and still carrying the Dolphins to another road win. So that's good for the Dolphins. They're starting to look like a scary team as long as Tua stays healthy.
Yeah.
All right. And then I think, Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver there in Miami, is the first receiver this season to reach 1,000 yards.
Okay.
Which is a big milestone, and I think that even beats Calvin Johnson's pace, I think.
Yes. He was
I saw that
just
stat today.
ahead of Calvin Johnson, yep.
For what was it, Calvin's biggest season, or just?
I forget what season that was of his.
Yeah,
but it might. Well, was it for a rookie? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Well, Tyreek Hill ain't a rookie, but it was still impressive. Where they're at, we're week 9 of the season, going into week 10, and he's already hit the 1,000-yard mark. Yep. That's pretty darn impressive.
Halfway to 2,000.
He could be trying to get to that record that Cooper Kupp just had last year. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals handled the Carolina Panthers 42-21. All thanks to running back Joe Mixon. That's right. What a heck of a game this guy had. 5 touchdowns during the game. I believe 4 on the ground, 1 through the pass.
Yep.
It's the first time this season he's also rushed over 100 yards this year, which is crazy to think about because Joe Mixon's actually a pretty good running back. But to get over 100 yards for the first time this season is absolutely nuts. To get 5 touchdowns in a game, also nuts. Besting the great Al Bundy,
really,
which we like to joke about around here. All right. Then the Detroit Lions got a heck of a win against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, 15-9. Not even I couldn't have guessed this low-scoring game. The Lions' defense came to play. Aaron Rodgers, for whatever reason, threw 3 interceptions. Yeah, a couple of them, or one of them was definitely not his fault. It bounced off of a player's helmet.
Right.
But still, 3 interceptions in a game for Aaron Rodgers is unheard of, and I think they said the last time he had 3 in a game was 2017, maybe.
Boy, it's been. I thought they said since his first season in 2008. Maybe I'm thinking of a different stat.
I think that 5 straight losses is the first time since his rookie year.
Yep, you are right.
Or not his rookie, the first year he started.
Right. Yeah,
so
that's what I was thinking.
Still crazy streak that the Packers are on right now. The Lions defense had a bunch of rookies just come to play finally, so it was cool seeing that. Kirby Joseph had 2 interceptions against Aaron Rodgers this week. One of them, was the big tip, but then the other one was a really nice, just cutting in front of a receiver's route and just snatching it out of the air for a potential touchdown. So that was great. And of course, the number 2 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, getting an interception too was awesome.
In the end zone.
And he even joked that Aaron Rodgers was giving him crap saying, "Oh, I gave you a freebie." And Hutchinson said, "Well, freebie or not, I still got it, so thanks."
Yeah, well, the typical Lions fashion, they let Green Bay hang around to the end.
Oh, it was such a nerve-wracking game.
I don't think I have any fingernails left. I chewed them all off at the end of the game.
I might need to go to the doctor and get some heart.
I'm glad I had my
heart condition.
I remember to take my blood pressure
prescription.
medication.
Yeah, blood pressure. That's what I'm looking for.
Because oh my God, what an ending!
That game, I think
it was so close.
That game, I think, encapsulated every bit of stress it is to be a Lions fan, but coming out on the winning side for a change, because it was, missed referee calls left and right. We feel all the delay of games, but I've heard people say that in the stadium it wasn't as bad as Fox made it look. So maybe there was something up with the Fox.
Yeah, because I think you and I counted about 6 times.
I counted 4. There were a couple close ones, which you can let go because you have to look at the 0, look at the ball. So, I don't know, there was a few. I do think that they need to institute a stinking shot clock, horn, or a buzzer or something, or an air cannon that shoots a big old flag out onto the field to stop play. They need something to get over these delay of games. Something simple that they can, fix.
I think maybe like a shock collar on the referee.
A shock collar.
And when it hits 0, he gets a shock, and so he'll start jumping around, and then
all they need is those little buzzer things you get when you go to the restaurant, and it's got the lights that light up. That's all they need. As soon as it hits 0, bzz, and the lights light up. That's all you need. Simple. Just go to the Olive Garden, tape one of those to the stinking down marker, and if that goes off, it's delay a game.
Sponsored by Outback Steakhouse.
This week's Shot Clock Buzzer is brought to you by Olive Garden, where everybody is family. I mean, it would be that simple. I think you should just go with a air horn like the NBA. Like, come on. Like, something that's not super intrusive, but it's something as soon as you hear it and you don't see the ball snapped, there it is. There's your call. Done.
Right.
But then if it's close, like I'm sure there would be a time where it could be close. Like you kind of hear it and then the ball snapped. Like, okay, you let that go.
Yeah.
But there were times where even on the clock, you could go 1,000, 2,000, and the ball was still not snapped at 0. That was what got me.
Yeah.
What else from this game? A couple of weird instant replay things that went down, like on the same drive.
Yeah, so many times, did he get that ball inbounds before he rolled out of bounds with it, or didn't he? Was that guy's...
this game had everything.
Was his knee down? Was his elbow down? Oh, my gosh. It was incredible.
Yeah, they're going to be studying this game at referee school, or at least they better.
Yeah, this will be one they talk about in the offseason.
This is how we screw over the Lions.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah, really.
All right, let's move on from that. Nobody wants to hear us talk about the Lions.
No.
But hey, at least we won. Give us that.
Yeah.
All right, Jacksonville defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 27-20. This is like the third or fourth blown lead that Las Vegas has had this year. Just unbelievable. But good for Jacksonville bouncing back. I like this feisty Jaguars team. Then New England just decimated Indianapolis 26-3, which also resulted in the firing. I think last week they fired their offensive coordinator. The Colts did.
Really?
Yep. Then this week they fired their head coach. And I don't know, do you want to talk about that story now, or do you want to say it?
We'll talk about it later, but just enough to say, their head coach did get fired after this game.
Bye-bye, Frank Reich.
We'll talk about it more in NFL.
Yeah, New England getting a big old win in that one, and their defense definitely came to play.
Yep.
All right. Probably the shocker of the day was the New York Jets defeating the Buffalo Bills 20-17. Are the New York Jets for real? They're starting to look like it. They've put together quite the squad out there.
Yeah, they won a couple of surprise games this year. This one really surprised me.
Did you see the story about the Jets fan who has done they did a coin flip and wrote down win or loss for each game for the whole season? And their supposed coin flip has been 9-0 so far this season. It has guessed every game right for the Jets, win and loss. So they guessed that they would be 6-3 at this point and beating Buffalo. And so this coin flip game apparently ends with them going to the AFC Championship and losing, I think. So they're going to be 11-5 or something and go to the playoffs. So
wow.
The developing story we will keep an eye on apparently is the coin flip.
I hadn't heard
prediction.
about that.
Yeah, that was I've seen that in a few
I believe
places.
it. I mean, it's so random anymore. Yeah. When you've got animals at the zoo picking games,
I mean, we pick games, and we're not as accurate as that stinking coin. Maybe we just need to flip a coin this week.
It might help me.
There you go. We'll get a coin. Stay tuned, everybody, for our weekly picks in the coming days.
Maybe it should be me versus
the coin
versus a coin flip. Yeah, see which one does better between the three of us.
That actually might be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do that this week. Let's move on. The Minnesota Vikings defeated the Washington Commanders 20-17. The Commanders, I think very fittingly for Veterans Day weekend, they kind of wore their all-black uniforms, which is kind of a nod to I don't even know, not servicemen, but it's I don't know, it's got more of a military look to it than the other uniforms.
Well, yeah, I think they just wore it because it was military appreciation. I don't think the color black really has anything to do
with it. Not the color black, but I just think the style, the way that uniform is now, it looks very like a military ship. It looks, I don't know, it's really weird to describe it. Everybody, you've seen them, you know what they look like.
But I did not like the black uniform at all.
I know you
the black helmet, the black.
The second time they've worn it, I'm not a fan of that uniform.
Nope, it's awful. Do away with it.
All right, the Seattle Seahawks got a big win against the Arizona Cardinals, 31-21. Not much from me on this one, just because I didn't see any highlights from this game.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But I mean, Seattle holding on top of that, really, really interesting NFC West division. Who would have thought? Geno Smith has just been something else for them this year, and I'm very happy for him after bouncing around like he has the last several years. So good for Geno, good for Seattle. And who thought that we'd see the Seahawks where they are after losing or trading Russell Wilson away?
Yeah, Seattle is having a surprise season, and Arizona is kind of having a surprise season. They're not as good as everybody thought they were going to be.
Yeah, and they'll be on Hard Knocks, so we'll get front row seats to that.
And Seattle is actually better than people thought it was going to be.
All right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got the win over the Rams 16-13. We watched the end of this game where Tom Brady, with 44 seconds left, was able to drive down and give the Buccaneers the win. And the Rams look like the Detroit Lions. I am not going to lie. Matthew Stafford, I don't know what's going on with that team. That last drive they had where they could have just got a first down and run out the clock was some of the most pitiful play calling I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it looked like he was vintage Detroit Lions right there.
Yeah, he's not getting the protection that he did last year. His offensive line is not as good as it was last year. The receivers, I don't know. Cooper Kupp's like the only good receiver they've got right now, and I don't know what's going on, but it's very disappointing to see the Rams not doing as well as they should be.
Well, it depends on how you're viewing it, because I view it as a great thing, especially when you have a first-round pick on the line if
That's
you're the
true.
Lions.
We get their first-round pick this year, so the worse LA does, the better for Detroit's draft pick. But
Yeah.
I
know we want better for Stafford, but
I'm torn.
Picks.
We need picks.
We need picks. All right, then a thrilling Sunday night game as the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Tennessee Titans in overtime, 20-17. I didn't catch the second half.
I didn't either. I went to bed.
But what a
tough time.
Two great tough teams. They were both 5-2 going into this game, I believe. And the Chiefs just always finding a way to kind of squeak out of there with a victory. But don't knock the Titans. I mean, I think they got some quarterback issues. Malik Willis, right, is the quarterback there.
I couldn't tell you.
The rookie that a lot of people thought Detroit should draft. But no offense, I'm glad we didn't take Malik Willis. But, hey, Tennessee, they still got Derrick Henry, who put in 2 touchdowns, and that dude is a machine. He carries that Titans team.
They've got a hell of a running game, and if it's hitting on all cylinders, they're going to be.
They got a shot. Yep. And then on Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the New Orleans Saints 27-13. Lamar Jackson looked like Lamar Jackson in almost every sense of the words, and got a big road win. And so that's it for your NFL. Week 9 scores. Any other notes from you before we move on?
No, I've got a note about Tom Brady at the age
the
age of 45 has surpassed 100.
Should have probably done that when we were talking about the
passing yards. Yeah, I missed that. I had a note written down. But that's regular and postseason.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's got for the just the regular season, but they made a big deal out of that. Just another record that he's got in his pocket. So when he does leave the game, whether it's next week, week after, whatever, he'll have a lot of records that won't be broken for a long time. So
you either retire the Super Bowl champion, or you play long enough to see yourself get a bunch of not meaningless records, but a bunch of records, and then end up divorced. Yeah. Boy, Tom, priorities, my friend.
Yeah, good call.
All right, moving on to the CFL playoffs. That's right. It was round 1 of the playoffs this year, semifinals, and we had the first game here on at the same time we were watching the Lions game, and I just want to PSA real quick. Public service announcement. If you are a fan of a football team, you should probably stick to just watching that team, right? I mean, I get that there's other football on and you like to flip back and forth, but when you're a diehard Lions fan, in the midst of a rivalry game against the most hated team that you know in existence, and your father keeps flipping back and forth between the Lions game and the Montreal Alouettes and Hamilton Tiger Cats playoff game, it needs to be stopped, because what are you doing?
That's a shot at me, isn't it?
It's a very big shot at you, because it made no sense. We are in the midst of a rivalry, heated game that we are literally on the edge of our seats, and you just go flip.
Hey, it was a commercial. So
and then when we get back to the Lions game, we've missed something. I hate missing something in a rivalry game. We could have missed a big play. I don't care if you were recording it on a DVR. No, that's why we had to switch to your picture-in-picture so you wouldn't make that stupid mistake again. But even then, it was distracting having a CFL game in the corner of my NFL screen.
It was too much football going on at the same time. So.
No such thing, but in this case, when a Lions game is on, too much. Anyway, the Montreal Alouettes defeated the Hamilton Tiger Cats in that game, 28-17. This was for the eastern side of the playoffs. Montreal led 22-6 going into the half. They never trailed during the game. It was the Alouettes' first playoff win since 2014, which... Yeah, when they celebrated that win, it was well-deserved.
Yeah.
Montreal quarterback Trevor Harris completed 27 passes for 243 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Eugene Lewis led the receiving corps with 7 catches for 98 yards. Hamilton quarterback Dane Evans completed just 7 passes for 123 yards and an interception. He was replaced in the third quarter by quarterback Matt Schultz, who completed 11 passes for 127 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Tim White caught 8 passes for 142 yards. This was the third straight year that Montreal had hosted that Eastern Conference semifinal game. And
I didn't realize that they had been in the semifinals the last 3 years in a row and hosted this game, but obviously lost the last 2, and then going into this weekend beat Hamilton to advance to the conference finals. So yeah, that was something I did not know.
They used to be a juggernaut team, and then they kind of fell off for several years.
Yeah.
They were kind of the laughing stock of the CFL. Now they've kind of come back to kind of being mediocre, okay, and they've gotten into the playoffs a couple of times, but not gotten a victory, and this was a big one.
Yeah, when Anthony Calvillo was their quarterback, boy, they were just a monster team up there. I forget how many Grey Cups they won behind
a lot.
him, but
it felt like a lot.
They were the team to beat year in and year out. So now it happens to be Winnipeg, but we'll see what happens in the rest of the playoffs.
Okay. As I yawn again.
Are you yawning?
I guess, man.
Oh
This is
gosh.
terrible. British Columbia defeated the Calgary Stampeders 30-16. British Columbia led 13-6 going into the half. Calgary scored first with a 32-yard field goal by Rene Paredes in the first quarter, but it was all British Columbia after that. Nathan Rourke, the quarterback there, returning for the British Columbia Lions. It's good to see him come back. Made his first ever playoff start and completed 22 passes for 321 yards and 2 touchdowns. Running back James Butler ran the ball 20 times for 95 yards, while wide receiver Keon Hatcher caught 8 passes for 162 yards and a touchdown. On Calgary's side, quarterback Jake Mayer completed 12 passes for 138 yards with no touchdowns, unfortunately. And then he was replaced in the fourth quarter by quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell, who completed 8 passes for 147 yards with no touchdowns. Wide receiver Malik Henry caught 7 passes for 119 yards and no touchdowns also for those Stampeders. And that will set up our conference final matchups next weekend, which will see the Montreal Alouettes from the East take on the Toronto Argonauts in that Eastern Conference final. And then for the Western Conference final, the British Columbia Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The winners will advance to the 109th Grey Cup in Saskatchewan. Any predictions? Who's going to win?
Well, I think. Who's going to be in the Grey Cup game?
I mean, you only got 4 teams to pick from. Who's going to win next week?
I say Winnipeg over BC in a very, very close game. And boy, I'm going to go with Toronto over Montreal just because Toronto is the home team.
I mean, easy to agree with you, but there's going to be one upset.
Yeah.
If that one upset, I think it might have to be the Alouettes might be sneaky good enough to upset Toronto.
You could be right.
But I also like British Columbia's chances.
Yeah.
But we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are
they're the juggernaut this year.
It is their Grey Cup to lose as of right now.
Yeah, this would be 3 in a row for Winnipeg if they went all the way this year. So it's hard to root against them, or at least to bet against them. I don't know. Okay, I guess that's it for the pro scores. So let's move on to some college scores. We're going to start with Week 10 in the FBS. And this was the first week when they actually came out with the playoff rankings.
That's right.
It was number 1 ranked Tennessee being upset by number 3 Georgia 27-13. Number 2 Ohio State beat Northwestern 21-7.
That game was all wind. I think Ohio State had like 200 yards rushing in that game because that wind was so bad there.
And then Notre Dame upset number 4 Clemson 35-14. After that, in a game that we watched, or at least we watched part of it, number 10 LSU upset number 6 Alabama 32-31 in overtime. It was Michigan State upsetting number 16 Illinois 23-15. Kansas upset number 18 Oklahoma State 37-16. Pittsburgh upset number 20 Syracuse 19-9. And number 22 North Carolina State upset number 21 Wake Forest by the score of 30-21.
Hold on, I got one bone to pick with you. Normally, we talk about college scores, we put the top 4 teams, or top 5 teams, and talk about them, and you missed one.
Well, I didn't mention number 5 Michigan because they won.
But
the top 4 are the only ones that I really
so
talk about.
I consider Michigan still one of the top 4 teams this year.
All right, what was their score? I didn't write it down.
I'm looking for it right now.
But in one other score, it was Washington upsetting number 23 Oregon State 24-21.
Number 5 Michigan won, by the way, 52-17 over Rutgers. Just wanted to throw it out there. We can't exclude all our Michigan schools.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, in the major college scores, it was a Wednesday night game. Bowling Green over Western Michigan, 13-9. That was a big disappointment there. I was really thinking that Western had a chance to win that game. But that was one of those 27 straight days of football being played between college and NFL from October 27th to November 22nd. We talked about that last week. There's 27 straight days of football, and this happened to be one of them. But that wasn't the only game played that night. I think there were like a total of 3 MAC games, under MACtion that night that were all on TV. I was flipping between a couple of different games.
Just like we got 3 MAC games tonight. We got, looks like 3 more MAC games on Wednesday, and then a couple games Thursday, a Friday. Oof. So much football.
Yep, so much football, so little time. In the military academies, it was Cincinnati over Navy 20-10, and Air Force over Army 13-7. Air Force wins their 21st Commander-in-Chief's trophy, and that was the first time they've done that. Won a CIC trophy since 2016. Let's moving on to FCS. From this point on, all the different divisions, we're just going to pick out 3 random scores in each. And so for the FCS level, it was Delaware State over South Carolina State, 27-24 in overtime. Davidson over Stetson, 56-48 in double overtime. And Duquesne over Sacred Heart, 35-28 in overtime. In Division II, it was Henderson State over Oklahoma Baptist, 51-24. West Georgia over Delta State, 52-42. And Western Colorado over Fort Lewis, 55-14. In Division III, it was Western New England shutting out the University of New England, 33-0. Aurora shut out Lakeland, 68-0. And DuPage shut out Oberlin, 72-0. In the NAIA, it was Lawrence Tech of Michigan over St. Francis of Fort Wayne, Indiana, 24-19. Concordia of Michigan over Madonna of Michigan, 58-13. And number 7, Marion of Indiana over Siena Heights of Michigan, 24-2 on Senior Day. And then we move to the junior college level. Snow College stays at 6-2 with a bye this week. Their game last week was canceled, so they have a game next week to get back on track. Georgia Military over DuPage, 24-21 on Sophomore Day. Sussex County over Erie, 20-17, and that rounds out the junior college division. Now we go up north to Canada. U Sports. It was their playoff semifinal round last weekend. The Laval Red and Gold over the Concordia Stingers, 38-27. The Western Ontario Mustangs over the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks, 45-9. The Queens Golden Gales over the Ottawa Gee-Gees, 35-13. The Mount Allison Mounties over the Bishops Gators, 15-12. The Saskatchewan Huskies over the Manitoba Bison, 37-9. The Montreal Carabins over the Sherbrooke Green and Gold, 23-15. And finally, the University of British Columbia Thunderbirds over the Regina Rams, 28-14. And that sets up 4 conference finals for this coming weekend. In the Loney Bowl, it's going to be the Mount Allison Mounties versus the St. Xavier X-Men. In the Yates Cup, it's going to be the Queens Golden Gales versus the Western Ontario Mustangs. In the Dunsmore Cup, it's the Montreal Carabins versus the Laval Red and Gold. And in the Hardy Cup, it's the University of British Columbia Thunderbirds versus the Saskatchewan Huskies. Also this weekend, the Canadian Junior Football League Championship game. the Regina Rams versus the Okanagan Sun at Mosaic Stadium in Regina, home of the CFL's Saskatchewan Roughriders. And that is it for this week's World of Football scoreboard.
Oof. So many scores, even with the CFL being down to only a couple of games.
I'm actually looking forward to some of these college teams and schedules being done for the year and having fewer games to talk about. But it's all fun. It's a lot of fun seeing these teams. I mean, we list these teams and these names every year, and we kind of get a feeling like we know some of these teams because we say their names all the time and we've seen their logos, and it's just kind of fun to kind of follow what's going on up there.
That's like saying I know all the McDonald's employees because I eat at McDonald's all the time. Like, that's not true. Stop it with that.
As long as you know the McRib on a first-name basis, that's all that matters.
Oh, God. No, you know what? Everybody's talking about the McRib being back, and we have a big public service announcement for you guys on this one. Forget the McRib. It's dead. Bury it.
Hush your mouth.
The return of the steak, egg, and cheese bagel has not been talked about enough. I just want to throw that out there. I had 2 on Monday. I had one right away, and then I saved one for my break at work. So it's so good. It's still so good.
They used to have a steak McMuffin on the menu.
Nobody cares because it's not a
that
steak
was awesome.
bagel.
You didn't have that big bagel you had to eat through in order to get to the steak. But.
Oh, my God. If they crisp that bagel just right with that bagel sauce, which I'm thankful that the bagel sauce is back, which means you can order. Here's a McDonald's hack for all you losers out there, specifically you, because I know go to McDonald's all the time.
I do not.
But you get the breakfast burritos.
Uh-huh.
Ask for a side of the breakfast sauce that goes on the bagels, and dip your burrito in that. I am telling you, it is awesome. It is awesome. It's almost as awesome as putting the mac sauce on every burger sandwich you have there at McDonald's. You get a double quarter pounder, ask for the mac sauce. I'm telling you, it makes it better.
Okay, McDonald's, if you want to sponsor this podcast, let us know at info@theworldoffootball.com.
Give us all your money, please. We could sure use it.
All right, let's move on to some NFL news. As we talked about earlier, Frank Reich has been fired as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts after a 3-5-1 start. He was hired in 2018 and was in his 5th season as head coach. He had a record of 40 wins, 33 losses, and 1 tie, with 2 playoff appearances with the Colts. And he is being replaced by former Colts center Jeff Saturday. This makes no sense whatsoever to me.
Okay, so there's a few things here to address with this. This might just be one of the craziest things we've ever seen. But first off, Jim Irsay, owner of the Colts, in his 25 years of owning the team, I believe, has never fired a coach mid-season. Never. Till now, for whatever reason. Okay, right there. That right there is like, oh, that's interesting. Like that he's never done that. Good, good and consistent. But that must mean he thinks that the situation is dire enough to make a coaching change to get rid of this coach now. Because I think Frank Reich's an all right coach. They're 3-5-1. Like they could be 4-5. A couple of those games go the other way. They're a decent team. They got a lot of stuff there. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. And what is your solution there, Mr. Irsay? Let's not promote a guy that's already on our coaching staff to the head coaching position, somebody who already knows the team, who's been around this team for the last, 14 weeks through training camps and preseason and the regular season so far. No, let's go out and get a guy who has no NFL coaching experience, has no college coaching experience, has a abysmal, apparently, I don't really know at the top of my head, high school coaching record. What in the world is going on? Well, because he's in our Ring of Honor, and to quote, this was a real-life quote from this man that owns a football team, a billionaire, if you will, who runs an NFL team. We wanted a guy with no NFL experience. What?
I wonder if he's doing this to ensure he gets the number 1 pick in the draft.
How?
He doesn't want to win any more games.
Several teams that are below your 3-5-1 mark.
Yeah, Detroit.
If you're trying to tank, don't hire a coach at all. Just be like, you know what? We're just gonna let them run out and do whatever they want to do. At that point, shoot, let a referee come in and coach them. I don't know. It's just this was baffling, and whatever. Maybe Jeff Saturday's the man for the job, whatever. But also, you're just skipping on promoting somebody who's already there on staff. Mm-hmm. You're not promoting anybody. And I did see a little bit, and I don't watch them a whole lot, but the Skip and Shannon debate show on FS1, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Yeah. And, of course, Shannon Sharp gets pretty heated, and I liked a few of the points he had to make on this subject where how many times have we seen, oh, well, we didn't hire these minority coaches because they don't have NFL experience, because they've never coached this, never coached that, so that's why we didn't hire them. Here comes white player, former player, Jeff Saturday, with, all the criteria that they've turned down black head coaches for. I'm just saying, that was a point that did kind of stick out to me. I'm like, really? Look, owners are going to hire who they want to hire, but it's very clear that this Rooney Rule is a complete farce. And, they do tout diversity, and I'm all about diversity. I'm all about giving a lot of these minority coaches opportunity, and it's clear that there was no opportunity here. They just, Jim Irsay was just like, oh, hey, Jeff, I just saw you at that Ring of Honor ceremony we had. Shoot, maybe I should make you my next head coach. And he did it. No interview process for the interim head coaching job, it would seem. So I just don't know. I think the Rooney Rule is a farce, and it's a joke, and until NFL ownerships change to where we get some more minority individuals in these ownership positions, we're not going to see, probably a lot of rightful minority candidates get ascended to that position. But whatever. I've always said the best person for the job is the best person for the job. If Jeff Saturday is the best person for the job, which, I'm sorry, what resume? With what resume? That doesn't...
Then what does that say about the Indianapolis Colts if he's the best person for the job with no experience?
It's baffling. There's a lot of stuff here. It's frustrating on one end. It's just, I don't get it. And I probably should stop talking, so I'll let you talk now.
It's just so weird.
It's never happened.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday wasn't out there politicking to get a head coaching job
Or
somewhere.
was he behind the scenes? We don't know.
Well, he was like a special consultant with the team during preseason, I guess. And I don't think he's had too much contact with the team since then. But just to grab somebody who's an ESPN analyst, where have we heard that before, Matt Millen? How did that work out for the Detroit Lions, bringing you in as a general manager with no general manager experience? You're now the most hated man in Detroit 20 years after you got fired from the team.
I mean, that list is piling up, though. But also, don't forget, John Lynch, same situation. Fox broadcaster brought into the 49ers organization. Look where he's got them now. I'm just saying. It goes both ways.
I mean, it could work, but it's just so weird that you would just randomly pick somebody, a friend of yours, to come in and take over this job. It's just such a weird thing to have happen. But we'll have to see. If he starts, winning 2 or 3 games, then Irsay looks like a genius.
Maybe, but
really
just
don't
in the history of the NFL, in the history of coaches being fired in the middle of the season, never have I ever in my lifetime, let alone probably your lifetime, has a coach been instituted as the interim head coach that was not already on that staff.
Right.
What in the world is happening there in Indiana? How much Drano is Jim Irsay drinking in his luxury box at Lucas Oil Stadium? Is he actually drinking actual Lucas oil? I have no stinking clue. This dude's off his rocker. Yeah. And maybe we'll eat these words at the end of the year during the clip show. I don't know.
Well, time will tell, I guess. But let's get off this subject. Something you brought to my attention just a little while ago. The Chiefs-Chargers game in Week 11 has been flexed to the Sunday night game for that week, replacing a game between the Bengals and the Steelers. Now, that makes perfect sense to me. I think that Bengals-Steelers game was going to be a bit of a snoozer.
Maybe I'm all for the flex scheduling. I forget when. Obviously, this is the first point of the year they can start doing the flex.
It must be.
You know what I think the NFL needs to do, and I'm sorry this will probably screw up some schedules. It's got to be a full season flex. I mean, it might be hard that first couple weeks, because we don't know who's good and who's bad. But let's start putting entertaining games back in prime time. Let's flex some.
They've actually done a pretty good job.
It's hard to do the Thursday night games, but a Sunday night or Monday night.
Some of the Sunday and Monday night games have been really good matchups this year.
There have been some, but I'm just saying. I think flexing maybe should happen a little more often.
I think about halfway through the season is about right.
Maybe you're right. I guess I do feel like there's been some, not snoozers, but games that have ended up being good, but just matchups going into it. It's like, really? We want to see the Browns and the Panthers on a Sunday night? No, I don't think we do. And what about the Lions? The Lions, admittedly, probably should have had a primetime game yet, but after beating Green Bay the way they did, you tell me you don't want to flex the Detroit Lions and
Chicago Bears.
Well, no, I wouldn't go that far. But you know what I'm saying? Like, or like the Dolphins. The Dolphins are starting to get hot. I think it's a better opportunity to get some of these teams that are hot that didn't get a lot of that national promise, at the beginning of the year, like all the primetime games lined up. Like we said, the Lions' only national televised game will be Thanksgiving.
Right.
But like some of these teams that didn't have that opportunity, that might only have one or two Monday night or Sunday night games, let's give them a couple more. Like the Denver Broncos. People are sick of seeing the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get them off of because they got more coming. Let's get them out of those games.
They should have flexed Denver after the second primetime game they had.
And to get the Bears off of primetime.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, maybe it is a good thing doing it halfway through the season.
Yeah, late season. I mean, I thought it was only like the last 2 or 3 weeks.
I mean, maybe they just recently bumped it up to like the midway point of the season, which maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe that's perfectly fine. So, I don't know. I feel like there's been a few times where I'm like, man, I wish we got a better game to get me to watch a Sunday night game or a Monday night game. Because there's been a few that I'm like, I don't care. I watch the Monday night games now for Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. I don't really watch it for the matchup anymore. Like last night's game, like Ravens Saints, like what?
Yeah, I didn't care at all about that game.
That game should have been the Rams and Buccaneers. At least I had interest to it.
And even the Manning cast, I thought was pretty boring last night.
Oh, was it? I
didn't.
A whole lot.
I could barely make it to halftime myself. But, normally they have some interesting guests, and I thought that they were going to be talking about Jeff Saturday. And while I was watching, I never saw him mention Jeff Saturday and his pick. At halftime, the halftime crew did mention that. They brought that up, and we're talking about that. But I thought since Peyton is good friends with Jeff Saturday, that they would have mentioned that right off the bat.
Just had him on the Peyton's Places, which you're going to talk about later.
We're going to talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, and at least while I was watching, I did not see them. So I don't know if they ever did mention the whole Jeff Saturday thing last night or not. I couldn't tell you. All right, moving on here. Tom Brady could become the first quarterback to win games in 4 different countries. He's playing the Seahawks this weekend in Germany, and he's already won games, of course, in the United States, in Mexico City, and in London, England. So, yet another feather in his cap.
Oh, man. For the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Yep.
I can just hear his Hall of Fame resume just taking longer than maybe even his speech at this point. Like, it's like in Game of Thrones when they announce, first of their name, Tom Brady, winner of a game in the country of Europe, in the country of Germany, in the country of Mexico, in the United States of them. Shoot, just send him up to Canada. Get him a win up in Canada at this point.
There you go.
Why have they not played a regular season game up in Canada? Come on now, NFL. You did that one crappy preseason game, but
yeah, they used to have a game in Toronto, in the Sky Dome or the Rogers Center, and that was always fun to watch. But I don't know. I wish they'd go back to that Toronto series where they'd bring the Buffalo Bills played up there in Toronto several times. So I think that would be a lot of fun to watch. But who knows? Speaking of the CFL in Canada. British Columbia, it was announced this past week, will host the 111th Grey Cup game in 2024. Next year's game will be played in Hamilton. So they, this year Saskatchewan.
Start booking your tickets then for 2024 because they got a dome.
Yeah, they do.
That might be our only way to do it. Let's do it.
They do. But that's clear across the country. But yeah, we'll see. I would love to see a game up in Vancouver. Go to a Grey Cup up there at BC. Yeah, that'd be nice. And one other CFL item, the CFL had to apologize recently for publishing the wrong list of league all-stars for this past season. Well, that was a mess. They got the wrong list. They put it out so some people that weren't supposed to be on the list got told they were all-stars, and people that were supposed to be on there weren't on the list. And
how do you screw that up?
I don't know what happened.
Was it like a joke going around the league, like, haha, look at this fake list we made with people who didn't deserve it to be on there?
I don't know, but that was a pretty embarrassing thing for the CFL, especially this time of year when they're trying to, talk about what a great season everybody had, and
I think it was a great year.
Season.
I think
I'm sorry to see the regular season end, and the playoffs and the Grey Cup's coming up, and I hate to see the Canadian season be over with because they didn't have a season 2 years ago, and last year it was a partial season. I think they only played 14 out of 18 games, so this was the first full season in 3 years, and it was great. So many great games, and I watched all the highlights from all the games if I wasn't able to watch them on ESPN2. So yeah, I really devastated by this news that they screwed up the All-Star list and didn't do their due diligence before they published it. All right, let's move on to some college news. Last week we talked about 4 MSU players being suspended after the brawl after the U of M game, and right after our show last week, 4 other players got suspended by Michigan State. So now there's been a total of 8 players suspended for that post-game brawl, and we haven't heard the last of this yet. You know, they're talking about criminal charges, civil charges, whatever. Some of the players are getting attorneys lined up. So this story is not over yet, and it's a real black mark on the whole, Michigan State rivalry, which has been a real good one for the past several years. But I hate to see that, but yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens next in that whole debacle. A 32-year-old college punter calls it quits. Tom Hutton, Hutton, an Australian who played for Oklahoma State, has had his season ended due to an injury. He's a senior and has one more year of eligibility left, but he says he's done playing football. He was injured while trying to make a tackle in OSU's 48-0 loss to Kansas City on October 29th.
Kansas State.
What did I say?
You said Kansas City.
Oh, Kansas State. On October 29th, which was 2 weeks ago. Hutton earned honorable mention for Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year in 2021. I seem like I remember early in the season them talking about a 32-year-old punter, and he's kind of had a quiet season, I guess. I haven't heard too much of him, but punters don't get a whole lot of attention sometimes. But good for him for playing college football at the age of 32. But boy, once you get injured, I think that just it's awfully hard to come back from some of these injuries. So congratulations on a good career anyway. Let's see. SMU defeated Houston this past weekend, 77-63, for a record combined number of points, 140 points in the game. The previous record was 137 points in the game, set by Syracuse and Pittsburgh, in a 77-61 game on November 26, 2016, the game that Pittsburgh won. The only game to feature more combined points was in 2018. Texas A&M beat LSU 74-72, but that game required 7 overtimes. So this is the highest scoring regulation game. Houston gained 710 yards on 71 offensive plays for an average of 10 yards per play. SMU quarterback Tanner Mordecai, I guess that's how you pronounce that, threw 9 touchdown passes, a school record, and he ran for another one, while Houston's Clayton Tune threw for 7 touchdowns in the loss. The last time that SMU and Houston met, the teams combined for 136 points in a 75-61 Houston win, but that was in men's basketball. I just thought that was an interesting little fact they threw out there. Let's see, I got some high school news here. This was making the rounds the other day. A game was called at halftime after one team was up 96-0. IMG Academy, a prep boarding school in Bradenton, Florida, was ranked number 10 in the country with a record of 6-1, while West Toronto Prep, a private school from Toronto, Canada, was 0-5 on the season. IMG scored 13 touchdowns. That's 5 rushing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns, 3 fumble returns by the defense, and 1 blocked punt recovered in the end zone. They also added 3 safeties in the 24-minute half. West Toronto has also played against teams from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Tennessee, and have been outscored by their opponents by a combined 291-6 in its 6 losses this fall.
Goodness gracious.
I actually posted a video on our Twitter timeline that showed all, it was a YouTube video, I guess, that showed all of the scoring plays, and it was just incredible. The center for West Toronto, they always went from a shotgun formation, and he was sending the ball over the quarterback's head. It was off his shoulder pad. Why didn't they move the quarterback up under center in that case? Because the shotgun formation was not working for them. It seemed like every play that they showed, West Toronto was backed up in their own goal line, within their 10-yard line, and just, oh my gosh, this game should have been stopped at halftime. It was awful to watch. But I guess
wasn't it stopped at halftime?
Yes, it was.
Okay, you said it should have been stopped at halftime.
Well, yeah,
as if it wasn't.
It should have been stopped at halftime. Yeah.
Okay, you're just confirming.
Yes,
Good call.
It definitely should have been stopped at halftime, which it was. So yeah, check out the video.
Could you imagine? So that's how long are quarters in high school? Like 12 minutes?
Well, this said 12 minutes per quarter. Yeah.
So in 24 minutes.
Yep.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was just awful, just awful.
Beat down of the century.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Peyton's Places, Season 3, Episode 2 aired on Sunday. This one was called Helmet Cars. I love this episode. And I used to love seeing those cars out on the sidelines, especially the Lions.
I've seen so many great pictures of the helmet cars. The Lions used to have I think they still might have that helmet car.
There was one up for sale, like on eBay once.
Oh, no.
An official
and
Lions.
You don't own it? It's not here at the man cave?
I tell you, I seriously thought about making a bid on that. But
what team was it? Or was it just a regular helmet?
It was the Lions.
Oh, okay.
It was the Lions helmet car.
See, now we just need to get a World of Football helmet car, and you'd be all set. A little golf cart riding around on the World of Football campus out here. The World of Football ranch.
But this episode, ironically, featured Jeff Saturday and Pat McAfee, and it was filmed at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And at one point, Peyton says, "Let's bring back the helmet cars," and I totally agree with that. The whole thing was that Peyton and Jeff Saturday were racing on the Indy Speedway. Of course, Peyton had the Indianapolis Colts car, and Jeff Saturday had an old Houston Oilers car. It was a blue helmet with the oil derrick, not the white one that you remember, but a blue one from the really early days. And of course, Peyton won by a face mask. But it was such a fun episode, and they talked about the history of these cars, who made them, who designed them, and they showed pictures of them being made in a factory. And they actually showed, like, one of the Super Bowls, they had all 27 NFL teams.
I've seen pictures from that,
Yeah, the things were going around. They had a cheerleader on the front, and they had you drive in formations, on the field. God, they were so cool. And
Bring back the helmet
I would
cars.
love to have a helmet car, a Detroit Lions helmet car. Man, oh man.
You heard it, fans. Help make Randy's dream come true.
Well, you
may not be able to afford a hybrid, but if you could get him a helmet car, I think he'd be just as happy.
You and your brother got me that Rampage helmet, game-worn helmet for Christmas. See what you can do about getting me a
helmet car?
Helmet car for
Oh, yeah,
Christmas.
let's see how many thousands of dollars we got just laying around.
Hey, I don't care how much you got to spend.
Let alone the upkeep for something like that.
Let's get this done. Hey, I just made room in the pole barn the other day. I think we could fit it in
The World
there.
of Football helmet car. I like that. You could tour it around the country.
There you go. We can be in parades all over the country.
We.
Me driving, you pushing.
No, you just throwing out your business cards. No, I don't throw out candy. I just throw out little flags with our logo on it.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Arena Football TV on YouTube. There have been no new games posted in the last 2 weeks, so hopefully they'll get a few more in next week.
Well, I think they're pretty busy over there. They've been doing a lot of stuff.
Well, eventually they're going to run out of games because they've got like over 500 games over the 30 years.
It's a good thing that there's hundreds of thousands of arena football games that were played in the league's history.
They haven't done too many AF2 games. So hopefully they'll get some of those and post them up there. I think they might have an Arena Cup game, but not a whole lot in the way of AF2 games. They're minor league. Okay, let's move on here. Today's birthdays. Wide receiver Kadri Ishmael turns 52 years old today. He was known as the Missile because he was the brother of Rocket Ishmael. Kadri played college football at Syracuse and was a second-round pick in the 1993 NFL Draft by the Minnesota Vikings. He played for 5 different teams over his 10-year NFL career between 1993 and 2002. He played for the Vikings, the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints, Baltimore Ravens, and the Indianapolis Colts. And today is also the anniversary, November 8th, 1970, of Tom Dempsey's famous NFL record 63-yard field goal for the New Orleans Saints to beat the Detroit Lions 19-17 on the last play of the game. Who hasn't seen that highlight? Tom Dempsey in his specially made kicking shoe because he only had half a foot.
Right.
And oh my gosh. A friend of mine says he remembers listening to that game on the radio. He was, I think, deer hunting with his dad, and they had the game on the radio, and he heard that as it happened. Wow. And now, you were there when another NFL record was set by Justin Tucker, 66 yards. You were there in the end zone watching that ball coming at you.
I can't believe it.
So 2 NFL record kicks to win over the Detroit Lions on the last kick of the game. Unbelievable. Okay, obituaries. We got a couple of obituaries this week, and this is where we take a moment to honor those who've made the world of football a better place. The first one is Ray Guy, a punter in the NFL for 14 seasons, has died at the age of 72. Guy played college football at Southern Mississippi and was the 23rd overall pick in the 1973 NFL Draft by the Oakland Raiders. He was the first true punter ever selected in the first round of the NFL Draft. Guy played for the Oakland/Los Angeles Raiders from 1973 to 1986, winning 3 Super Bowls with the team. He was the first punter inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2004 and was also inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2014.
All right, our next obituary is that of Dave Butts. Right, is that how you say that?
Yes,
Butts?
Dave Butts.
All right, a defensive tackle in the NFL for 16 seasons has passed away at the age of 72. Butts played his college football at Purdue University and was selected with the 5th overall pick in the 1973 NFL Draft by the St. Louis Cardinals. He played for the Cardinals in 1973 and 1974. He then went on to play for the Washington Redskins from 1975 to 1988, 13 long years, winning 2 Super Bowls during that time with the Redskins.
And our last obituary is that of John McVay, who coached in college, the NFL, and the World Football League. He's passed away at the age of 91. After coaching at 3 different high schools in Ohio from 1953 to 1961, McVay was an assistant coach at Michigan State from 1962 to 1964. He then became the head coach at Dayton from 1965 to 1972. He was also the head coach of the World Football League's Memphis Showmen in 1974 and 1975.
Southmen.
What'd I say?
You said showman. You mixed up showboats and Southmen.
You're right. I almost wrote down showboats when I was typing this up. Yes, the Memphis Southmen. That's the team that featured Jim Kick, Jim Zonka, and Paul Warfield in 1975. But then he went on. His last coaching job was with the New York Giants from 1976 through 1978. McVay is the grandfather of current Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay, which I did not know.
Yeah, I heard them talk about that.
Okay, anything else pop up on your phone that we need to address before we get into this week's history lesson?
No, but usually, Tuesdays is the day for all football news, apparently.
Exactly.
But nope, we are in the clear as of right now.
Okay. Well, then let's move on to the history lesson. And this week, we're going to tell the story of the very first football movie. There have been many great football movies over the years, from The Longest Yard to The Water Boy to Little Giants. But to find the very first Hollywood movie to feature action on the gridiron, you have to go all the way back to the days of the silent picture. It was a movie called 2 Minutes to Go, and it was released into theaters on October 17th, 1921. The film starred Charles Ray, who is also the producer and director of the film. Ray plays Chester Burnett, the star of his college football team. But when his father's business falls on hard times, Chester has to take a job as a milkman to help pay for his college. He is so embarrassed by this that he does not tell anyone about his job, not even his sweetheart, Ruth, played by Mary Anderson. Because his new job and his schoolwork take up so much of his time, he is forced to quit the football team. The team starts losing, but Chester refuses to return to the team or explain to anyone why he won't come back. Finally, a fellow student discovers Chester's secret and spreads the word around the school. When his girlfriend Ruth finds out, she breaks up with him. Eventually, Chester does return to the team, but his heart just isn't into it. However, when he receives a note from Ruth telling him that she's sorry and that all is forgiven, Chester goes on to lead the team to victory in the big game. This movie came out a year after the National Football League was founded in 1920. In fact, the league wasn't even called the NFL at the time. It was still known as the American Professional Football Association. Another more well-known silent film that also featured college football was The Freshman, starring comedian Harold Lloyd. This movie was released in 1925. Lloyd plays a nerdy college student who joins the football team in order to become popular and, of course, to impress a girl. He is constantly roughed up during practice and never seems to know what he's doing on the football field. But as usual, he somehow finds a way to save the day during the big game at the end of the movie. The best thing about these two movies is getting a glimpse of what football looked like back in the 1920s. The uniforms, the equipment, and the style of play on the field are a wonderful way to look back at the history of the game. So the next time you're watching The Blind Side, or We Are Marshall, or 12 Mighty Orphans, just remember that it all started back in 1921 with a little-known silent film called 2 Minutes to Go.
I'm still a little bitter that I wasn't consulted on football movies being incorporated into this podcast, as it is my semi-area of expertise. So, just saying, just a little offended.
Well, this particular movie, 2 Minutes to Go, I have not seen it. I've only read about it. But the other movie I talked about, The Freshman with Harold Lloyd, I own that one. That is an awesome movie.
Is that one
funny.
we got you?
Yes, you got me a whole collection, I think. Of
I think that's one of the few Criterion Harold Lloyds they put out there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but
Criterion is a great company that keeps and preserves film. It's awesome.
Yeah, but the Harold Lloyd movie is great. I mentioned how they roughed him up in practice quite a bit, and there was no stunt double for that particular scene. They had him in a sand pit, and guys just came over and tackled him. And the minute he got up, another guy came over and tackled him, and another guy came over and tackled him. They used him as a tackling dummy, and like I said, this was Harold Lloyd. I mean, this is what they did back in the days of silent pictures. You did a lot of your own stunts, basically, and so that was a good movie. But in fact, I've looked for this movie, 2 Minutes to Go, and I can't find it on eBay or anything like that. So if I ever run across a copy of it, I would dearly love to have it. I know you're looking at your phone right now.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
But I did. I did a search on it, and I could not find it anywhere, but maybe you can come up with something different. All right, finally, our upcoming events calendar today. This weekend, you've got the Canadian Junior Football League Championship game between the Okanagan Sun and the Regina Thunder in Regina. You've got the 4 U Sports Conference Final games. On Sunday, you've got the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Munich, Germany on NFL Network. That's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff. Sunday the 13th also is the NFL Conference Finals. You've got Montreal at Toronto and BC at Winnipeg. So that particular day, this coming Sunday, the 13th, you can catch games on TV from 3 different countries, from the U.S., from Canada, and from Germany, all in one day. So
pretty exciting stuff.
Happy viewing, football fans. Let's see. November 19th, you've got the 138th Harvard-Yale game, and that same day you've got the 158th Lehigh-Lafayette game. November 20th, the 109th CFL Grey Cup Championship game in Saskatchewan. That game will be on ESPN here in the States. Monday night, November 21st, San Francisco 49ers versus the Arizona Cardinals in Mexico City. That is the Monday Night Football game on ESPN. November 26th, the 57th Vanier Cup in London, Ontario. That's the Canadian equivalent of the College Football National Championship up there. On the 26th also is the FBS college football regular season comes to an end. And finally, December 10th, the 122nd Army-Navy game. So that's it for this week's show, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
Nope, no more breaking news. We got done recording a little early today. Everybody go out and vote. I voted today before I got here, so happy Election Day.
Yep, your mom and I voted absentee ballot a couple weeks ago, so glad you get. Were there big lines when you voted today?
Oh, wasn't that crazy? I got to get out of work a little early. I got to get to the voting station. Got in and out fairly quickly. I was probably there for about 10, 15 minutes, if that. But
cool.
Nothing too bad. Line wasn't crazy. Parking was a little weird, but they didn't have any lines in the parking lot. What's going on, church? But no, it was cool. It was cool though. Everybody's friendly and nice and helpful. So it's good to see democracy at work. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure people will be pissed off tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? All right, well, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
Go ahead and like The World of Football on Facebook at TWOF Kalamazoo there. You can also follow our Twitter, which is at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find us on YouTube. That YouTube channel is The World of Football Kalamazoo, or you can they've got this new thing where you do youtube.com/@ The World of Football. So you should be able to find us that way too.
Yeah.
We've probably changed the links in some of our videos.
I did on
our podcast feed,
on our podcast page on the website.
And you can probably start using that on your Twitter feeds too, using that new YouTube URL that they started rolling out.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something new. We got some great videos over there. We've got a lot of traction on our XFL segment from last week. We put up on YouTube. So thanks to everybody who's watched that and shared that with other people. Good feedback. So that's a lot of fun. We might have to start doing some more segments from the show, getting video treatment. But
how many views did that?
It's like it's 600 now.
600. Wow.
650. I want to say last I looked. So
not bad for something that we threw together at the last second.
Yeah, that you didn't think would work, but hey, I think we nailed that one. Like I said, I think we should do more of that. That's kind of what I've been wanting us to try to do is find a good segment to record during the show and put it out there. Like I thought the Jeff Saturday one this week would have been a good one, but by the time we get around to that one, I mean, are people still talking about it? I mean, it's hard to stay on top of it.
We've got so much to do between this podcast and our picks video that we do every week. It takes you a day and a half to get that, edited and with all the graphics and everything in there. So throwing another video in during the week is kind of hard. So
always trying to figure out, the fun part for me is always, fun/frustrating part is always trying to figure out how to be more efficient every time. Like you get into a rhythm, you got, your way of doing things, but then you just try to think like, how can I do this better? How can I be more efficient?
Streamline it. And
that's kind of the fun part is the wheels are starting to turn in my head now. I think I finally starting to get some new ideas for what to try. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have some things changing here in a bit. So yeah, The World of Football Kalamazoo, if you need to search it, subscribe, rate, review, give us all the feedback. We love it. We try to interact with as many people as we can. The picks video is obviously a lot of fun having people make their picks with us. Yep. So be on the lookout for that picks video soon. Let us know what you think, and please come be a part of the football conversation.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody loves more football than we do. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
We'll see you all next week.